Hi there, it's Matt here, and welcome back to the podcast. There is an assumption most of us carry, so familiar now that we rarely question it, that sleep ought to happen in silence. A quiet bedroom, a closed door, a pair of earplugs if the neighbors are loud. If the room is not perfectly still, or if we can hear the neighbor's television, a distant siren, or a partner breathing, we tend to treat it as a problem to be solved. I would like, in the course of the next half hour or so, to gently complicate that assumption, because for almost the entirety of human history, it would have been unimaginable. Take the long view for a moment. Anatomically modern humans appear in the fossil record around 300,000 years ago. The controlled use of fire, which turns out to be one of the most important shapers of the ancestral sleeping environment, is documented in the archaeological record to at least 400,000 years ago. That means, for the overwhelming majority of human history, sleep happened beside the crackling of a fire, the rustle of wind through long grass, the chorus of insects, the call of nocturnal animals. And this part matters, the breathing and shifting of whoever else was sleeping beside you. This is not speculation. Spend time with one of the last remaining populations living in conditions close to our ancestral sleep ecology, and a clear picture emerges. Track the Hadza of Tanzania across more than 400 nights with careful observation of their sleep sites, and you find fire present on roughly 2/3 of those nights. Their grass hut shelters offer essentially no acoustic barrier to the environment. The real novelty then is not sleeping with sound. The real novelty is the modern expectation of sleeping in silence. The recent explosion of interest in white noise and pink noise machines, which some people find faintly futuristic, is in fact something closer to the opposite. It is a technological rediscovery of the acoustic environment our species was built to sleep inside. And that brings us to the question I want to spend the rest of this episode with. If the human auditory system was never designed to operate in silence during sleep, what on earth is it doing in there? What does the sleeping brain do with sound? Does playing noise at night actually help you sleep, or does it carry hidden costs? And who, if anyone, should be using these machines at all? Let me take these in turn. Start with an image. Think of a house at night with the lights off. From the street, it looks dark, still asleep, but inside, the boiler is running, the fridge is humming, a security system is quietly watching the doors. The occupants are not awake, but the house has not gone offline. Your sleeping brain, when you close your eyes at night, is very much that house. Place tiny recording electrodes into the auditory cortex of adults undergoing pre-surgical monitoring. The sort of extraordinary window into the living human brain that only occasional clinical circumstances allow. Play them clicks, words, and pieces of music while they are awake. Then play them the same sounds while they are in deep, non-dreaming sleep. Then again during dream sleep. And look at what the neurons actually do. What they do is fire robustly. The high-frequency electrical activity that signals real auditory processing, the cortical equivalent of the microphone being switched on, shows almost no difference between wakefulness and deep sleep. The ears are open. The primary auditory cortex is receiving. The microphone, to put it simply, never gets switched off, which raises the obvious puzzle. If the microphone stays on, why do we not consciously hear the world throughout the night? The answer coming out of recent human neurophysiology is elegant. What sleep switches off is not the sensory hardware, it is the feedback. During wakefulness, the higher regions of your brain are constantly sending signals back down to the auditory cortex. A top-down conversation that is part of how raw sound becomes conscious experience. During sleep, that feedback loop is strongly reduced. the ears are open, the early auditory cortex is responsive. But the interpretive loop, the system that makes meaning of what is heard, is quiet. Think of it like this. Imagine a radio receiver at a remote listening post. The antenna is picking up signals beautifully. The operator, however, has taken off his headphones. The signal is there, but the meaning is not. You can see this two-tier architecture even more precisely when you zoom further in. Record from hundreds of neurons simultaneously in two different parts of the sleeping brain, the primary auditory cortex and a downstream region involved in stitching sound together with memory and meaning. In the primary auditory cortex, sleep produces only about a 10% reduction in the neural response. In the downstream cortex, that same sleep knocks the response down by roughly 50%, and within every region monitored, the later a neuron's response happened after the sound arrived, the more sleep suppressed it. This is precision filtering, not a blackout. The early hearing hardware stays largely on. The late meaning-making machinery is dampened. At the center of this architecture sits the thalamus, your brain's sensory switchboard. During wakefulness, the switchboard faithfully relays incoming signals up to the cortex. During deep sleep, it changes its mode of operation, and the flow of sensory information drops to roughly a third of waking levels. And here is the detail I find most striking. Across sensory modalities, the auditory system appears uniquely resistant to this switchboard gate. You can close your eyes. You cannot close your ears. There is no biological eyelid for the ear. And evolution, it seems, built a sensory system specifically designed to remain partly open across the full span of the night. Within that partly open system, the brain is not indifferent to what it hears. A partner of today's podcast is Pique, spelled Pique. This holiday season, whilst everyone's focused on external wellness, I've been examining Pique's deep hydration protocol, a two-part system that addresses something we often overlook: comprehensive daily hydration and its effects on cognitive performance and physical well-being. The protocol consists of BT fountain for morning use and RE fountain for evening. The morning formula provides minerals, ceramides, and hyaluronic acid for cellular hydration, plus gentle, sustained energy. The evening formula contains what they call triple biomaxed magnesium, multiple magnesium forms for optimal absorption, supporting nervous system recovery and muscle relaxation. The connection between proper hydration and overall performance is well established in the literature, but rarely addressed systematically. My routine: BT fountain at 10:30 a.m. mixed into my water bottle. RE fountain in the evening around 9 p.m. The morning formula has a light, spa-like taste that's genuinely pleasant. The evening formula is calming with flavors that signal wind down time. What's notable is the absence of sugar and artificial ingredients, just clean, bioavailable compounds. After 2 weeks of consistent use, I noticed a noticeable sense of relaxation in the evening, likely from the magnesium supporting neurotransmitter function. For the holidays, Pique is offering 20% off site-wide for life, plus a complimentary exclusive holiday bundle. Visit piquelife.com/mattwalker. That's piquelife.com/mattwalker. Place sleeping adults in a brain scanner and play them neutral sounds. The auditory cortex and thalamus light up, as you would now expect. But play them the sound of their own name and something more specific happens. The left amygdala, a region deeply involved in emotional and biological salience, shows a differential response. The sleeping brain is not merely hearing, it is sorting. Take that one step further. Play sleeping adults' recordings of their own name spoken by familiar voices and by unfamiliar ones. Unfamiliar voices produce more of what are called K-complexes, large stereotyped brainwaves characteristic of deep sleep, along with larger evoked responses and stronger coupling to the brain's slow rhythms. The sleeping brain is running a kind of acoustic background check on the world, and the unknown voice gets flagged for a closer look. The sleeping brain is making dozens of these decisions every hour, which sounds to let through and which sounds to quiet. This is not a flaw in the human sleep system. It looks very much like an adaptation. Now, if sound matters enough to evolution that the primary auditory cortex stays partly on through the night, you would expect to find species that have pushed this arrangement much further. And you do. Let me tell you about the dolphins. If the sleeping human brain is a house with some lights left on, a dolphin is an entirely different architecture, a duplex in which only one half ever turns off at a time. When you record brainwaves simultaneously from both cortical hemispheres in more than 30 bottlenose dolphins, the finding is consistent across every cetacean species studied to date. They sleep with one hemisphere of the brain asleep while the other half stays awake. Now, the detail that makes the acoustic interpretation hard to resist is this. Cetacean ear canals, the little tubes that carry sound in animals like you and me, are not functionally open to airborne sound. In toothed whales, sound reaches the inner ear instead through specialized fatty tissue in the lower jaw. Their hearing, in other words, cannot be voluntarily closed, and evolution's solution was not to find some kind of acoustic silence. It was to keep half of the brain awake, to listen. But the most illuminating case, the one that really sharpens the whole argument, comes from the northern fur seal. Same animal, same genome, but different sleep depending on where the seal happens to be. Record a fur seal on land and you find something broadly familiar. The whole brain goes to sleep together, accompanied by normal amounts of dream sleep, much as you or I sleep. Put the same animal in the water where predation and acoustic risk are higher, and its sleep architecture reorganizes itself. Unihemispheric sleep takes over. Dream sleep nearly vanishes. And if the animal spends 10 to 14 days forced to sleep in water, it suppresses very large amounts of dream sleep without the rebound that classical theories of dream sleep would predict when it eventually returns to land. One animal, one genome, two entirely different sleep architectures depending on the acoustic and threat environment that it happens to be inside. So, do humans carry any trace of this arrangement? The evidence says yes. Take healthy adults into a sleep laboratory for 2 consecutive nights and compare the two. On the first night, and only on the first night, the default mode network of the left hemisphere shows less deep, slow wave activity than the right. Deliver an unexpected sound to the left ear versus the right ear during deep sleep, and the left hemisphere's response is about 3 times larger than the right's, with faster awakening responses as well. By the second night in the same room, the asymmetry has gone, vanished. This is what sleep scientists call the first night effect. It is, in all likelihood, a vestigial form of the same half-awake sentinel mode that dolphins use full-time. When the acoustic environment signals novelty, one hemisphere stays partly on watch. This has real consequences, by the way, for anyone who sleeps badly in hotel rooms, and we will get to exactly what to do about that in a moment. A long-standing partner of today's podcast is Element, spelled LMNT. Element is a sugar-free electrolyte drink mix, and for me, it was the sugar-free part that made me start using it a while back. And again, I buy my own supply just to stay objective. Beyond having the electrolytes in the right balance, the other reason I'm a fan of Element is that it's scientific. If you look up the people who created the company, you'll find some pretty heavy-hitting physiology, biochemistry, and pharmacology knowledge baked into the product. And again, all of that comes without any sugar. Now, here's the update. Element's lemonade salt flavor, which used to be seasonal, was so popular that it's now permanent. You can get it year-round. Happily, I badgered them, and they have agreed to give you fine folks a free 8-count sample pack with any purchase of Element if you use the link drinklmnt.com/Matt Walker. So for free product with your purchase, just visit drinklmnt.com/Matt Walker. And as I said, you'll get some free product. With that architecture in mind, we can finally ask the question most of you probably came here for. Does playing something like white or pink noise at night actually help you sleep? The short answer is that the evidence is genuinely strong on one side of the ledger and genuinely complicated on the other. Let me walk you through both. Think of masking sound the way you would think of thick curtains. The curtains do not produce darkness. They reduce the contrast between your dark room and the street light outside so that an unexpected flicker is less likely to jolt you awake. Masking sound does the acoustic equivalent. It raises the background so that sudden noises stand out less. That is the mechanism. Keep it in mind. Now let me show you the numbers. Take 18 healthy adults into a full overnight sleep laboratory, put them through a protocol designed to simulate mild transient insomnia, and compare a night of broadband sound at about 46 decibels with a night of normal room noise. The time it takes to reach proper stable sleep is reduced by around 38% on the sound night. Next, broaden the population. Pool 12 randomized trials covering 1,301 participants, infants, younger adults, older adults, critically ill patients, and the meta-analytic signal shows white noise associated with improvements in sleep quality, sleep efficiency, total sleep time, and reductions in nighttime awakenings across multiple groups. The mechanism throughout is the same. Continuous, spectrally broad sound reduces the perceptual contrast of sudden sound events. A door closing, a siren passing, a partner turning over in bed. The population in which the effect appears most potent is perhaps the most charming. Take 2 groups of 20 newborn babies. Randomize one group to white noise, the other to a silent control. Within 5 minutes, 16 of the 20 white noise babies have fallen asleep. In the silent control group, only 5 fell asleep. The sleep aid industry has sold this with characteristic restraint as a revolution. It is, more soberly, a rediscovery of what our species has been doing to settle infants for as long as there have been fires. Now, there is a second strand of evidence that belongs here, and it is scientifically different from masking. It is the use of sound not as a passive blanket, but as an active participant in the sleeping brain's machinery. Deep, slow-wave sleep declines substantially across the adult lifespan. This is simply a biological fact of getting older. Into that trajectory, several research groups have been quietly introducing pink noise pulses delivered not in a continuous drone, but in precise synchrony with the brain's own slow brain waves. The idea is almost musical. You listen to the brain's rhythm and you clap in time with it. Take 13 adults aged between 60 and 84 across 2 nights of sleep. deliver 50 millisecond pink noise pulses at precise moments during deep slow wave sleep. What you'll find is that slow wave activity itself increases during the noise stimulation intervals. And this is the part that surprised the field. Overnight word pair recall is better after the night with the pink noise stimulation. The same phenomenon has been demonstrated in younger adults using the same closed-loop approach. And in a small pilot study of 9 adults with mild cognitive impairment, greater acoustic enhancement of slow-wave activity was correlated with better memory performance the following morning. Now, I need to introduce you to what I think is the single most philosophically extraordinary finding in this entire literature. Teach participants the locations of 50 objects on a computer screen, where each object is paired with its own distinctive sound: a cat meowing for the cat, a kettle whistling for the kettle, and so on. Put them to sleep. During confirmed deep sleep, replay 25 of those 50 sounds very softly. Do not replay the other 25. When the participants wake up the next morning and you test their spatial memory, they are significantly better at locating the objects whose sounds were replayed than the objects whose sounds were not. The technique is called targeted memory reactivation. The same result has been replicated using smells rather than sounds, with brain imaging confirming that the hippocampus, your memory center, is indeed reactivating during the cue. And the effect occurs only during deep sleep, not during dream sleep, and not during wakefulness. Sit with that for a moment. The sleeping brain is not merely receiving sound. It can be prompted by specific sounds to selectively replay and consolidate specific memories. The acoustic channel all the way down into the middle of the night is still meaningful. It is not just a threat detection line, it is a memory tool. So on one side of the ledger, continuous broadband sound reduces the time it takes to fall asleep in healthy adults. It masks disruptive environmental noise, and it is particularly potent in infants. Pink noise delivered in sync with slow brain waves enhances deep sleep and improves overnight memory in older adults, and specific auditory cues can reactivate specific memories during deep sleep, a rather strong side of the ledger. Okay, so I have a slightly strange invitation for you. Tonight, before you brush your teeth, turn the tube around and actually read the label, because most of us have become fairly thoughtful about what we eat, what we drink, and what we put into our bodies. But then twice a day, every day, we put toothpaste in our mouths without giving the ingredient list a second thought. That was the thing that made me pause. Redmond Leaf is a toothpaste I really like, and has become a household standard because it takes a much simpler mineral-based approach. It is fluoride-free and made without artificial flavors, dyes, or harsh chemicals. Instead of fluoride, it uses microhydroxyapatite, a mineral naturally found in tooth enamel and used in oral care to help support enamel strength. It also includes Redmond bentonite clay for gentle polishing, plus xylitol and erythritol for natural sweetness. And importantly, it still feels like real toothpaste. Smooth, creamy, fresh, not gritty or strange, which is why it is easy to keep using. It comes in wild mint, citrus rosemary, and orange vanilla. My personal favorite is wild mint. It's pitch perfect in terms of the flavoring. So, ladies and gentlemen, all you need to do is go to redmond.life/Walker and use code Walker to get 15% off your first order. That's redmond.life/Walker, code Walker, for 15% off your first order. I really do recommend giving them a try. Now, for the honest reckoning, the complications. A study published earlier this year has given the field real reason for careful second thought. 25 healthy adults slept across 7 nights under 6 different conditions, and 2 findings stand out. First, environmental noise on its own, the kind of peaks you get from traffic or aircraft, reduced deep sleep. That part was expected. Second, and this is the one to sit with, continuous pink noise at 50 decibels with nothing else going on significantly reduced dream sleep by approximately 19 minutes across the night. And here is the kicker. Adding pink noise on top of environmental noise did not restore healthy sleep architecture. It made it worse. Foam earplugs, by contrast, mitigated nearly all the effects of environmental noise on sleep until the very loudest levels tested. The authors conclude plainly, the widespread and indiscriminate use of broadband sound during sleep should be approached with caution given the importance of dream sleep for memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and especially neurodevelopment in children. Now, I want to be careful here. This is one trial with 25 participants in a laboratory setting over 7 nights. A second 2026 pilot with 12 participants and detailed blood chemistry did not see the same suppression of dream sleep from pink noise alone, though it also did not see strong benefits from pink noise in isolation. Neither of these studies is the final word. Continuous broadband sound still reduces the time it takes to fall asleep. White noise still improves several sleep outcomes in several populations. Phase-locked pink noise still enhances slow wave activity and memory. The 2026 studies do not overturn those results. They sharpen them. They suggest that continuous pink noise at the sort of volume needed to mask loud, intermittent sounds may come at a cost to dream sleep, and that for people whose primary problem is loud, intermittent noise, traffic, aircraft, a barking dog 2 doors down, earplugs may be the more architecturally protective intervention than a noise machine. Let me anchor one more piece of evidence before we move on, because it explains why the question matters as much as it does. Expose 74 healthy adults to 3 overnight conditions in a randomized, double-blind crossover design, no noise, 30 simulated road traffic events, and 60 events with peaks of about 60 decibels. Measure the next morning's blood vessel function. The control night produced a dilation of 9.35%. 30 noise events reduced that percentage, and 60 noise events reduced it even further. Heart rate was elevated. Sleep quality was worse. Blood work showed changes in inflammation-related proteins, taken together with a major 2024 review, which estimates at least 1.5 million healthy life years are lost annually to traffic-related noise in Western Europe. The picture is clear. Nighttime noise is not merely an annoyance, it leaves a measurable biological signature even after a single night. Now let me give you something concrete to carry into your life. 4 tangible recommendations, each anchored to the evidence, each calibrated to a real situation that real people find themselves in. First, if you are a parent of a new baby, the evidence that white noise helps infants fall asleep is consistent and, in the controlled work, genuinely striking. But a separate line of research measured the sound output of commercially available infant sound machines and found that several can exceed 91 decibels at maximum volume, a level that surpasses adult occupational safety limits for sustained exposure. The sensible position is use the lowest effective volume, keep the machine at least 7 feet from the cot, and aim for peaks of around 50 decibels or less. A free sound level meter app on your phone will tell you in under 10 seconds whether you are inside that envelope. Second, if you are an adult sleeping in a noisy urban environment. For general background masking, that quiet hum of a city, continuous broadband sound at roughly 45 to 55 decibels has meaningful support for helping you fall asleep faster and rating your sleep more positively. But if the noise you are trying to deal with is loud and intermittent, traffic, aircraft, trains, the evidence is clear that well-fitted earplugs protect sleep architecture better than pink noise does. Earplugs and noise machines are not interchangeable tools. They solve different problems. Think about which problem you actually have. Third, if you are a frequent traveler or anyone who sleeps badly in unfamiliar rooms, a portable noise machine or the app version on your phone is particularly well supported for your situation because the first night effect is specifically driven by acoustic novelty. If your left hemisphere is keeping watch because the room sounds unfamiliar, a continuous familiar sound is the best way I know of to tell that inner sentinel to stand down. Fourth, if you are traveling or a patient in a hospital, or if you are caring for someone who is, the combination of earplugs and an eye mask has some of the most consistent evidence in the entire sleep aid literature for improving sleep in hospital settings, including in intensive care. Patients can and should feel empowered to ask for earplugs and an eye mask from the first hospital night. They are cheap, safe, and efficient. And the supplement industry has, with characteristic modesty, not quite got around to selling them to you in luxurious packaging yet. So here is the single idea to hold on to. We began with the Hadza, sleeping beside the crackling of a fire on roughly 2/3 of their nights, with no insulating walls between them and the acoustic world. That is not the sound environment of a modern bedroom. It is a very specific, very ancient form of acoustic companionship, continuous, low-level, natural, familiar. Our sleeping brains were never built for silence. They were built to listen selectively and intelligently across the full span of the night. The modern question, then, is not whether to sleep with sound. It is what to sleep with, at what level, and for what purpose. And that is a question each of us can now answer on the basis of real evidence rather than marketing. Thanks so much for listening. I really do appreciate you tuning in. Please take care of yourself, enjoy your waking days, and sleep a sound sleep tonight. Bye for now.